How about no brown cow? Yeah. How about now? Yeah. Okay. And we're back. And we're back at home. Came back a little early, mainly just for you guys. And, my wife also. I'm glad to be home. I've been traveling a lot the last 4 weeks. Been home a total of like, I don't know, 4 or 5 days in the last month. So glad to be back at the Casa. Flew back in a little bit early. My team still out there in Bermuda, working with the regulators, working with the attorneys, making stuff happen. So shout out to Carl, MaxCon, and Lewis, who is our CIO, for making it happen and allowing me to get back to work instead of so much conference. So flew back a little bit earlier. We are here with good internet for you guys so that the YouTube is not a problem tonight like it was at the hotel on Monday. So hopefully, you get to listen to the whole thing and you get the update on the macro and everything if that's what you're here for. So on that topic, starting to see things move again. Breadth's opening up in the stock market, looking like a blow-off top, or the same signs as a blow-off top in the stock market here. I don't know that we've reached it yet. I don't know where the maximum's going to be. I do think we're going to see a rotation out of the FANG stocks and the large blue chip, stocks that most everybody's talking about, NVIDIA and the like, into mid and small caps before we are, all done with this deal. I do think that we are close to that point happening. Looking at some of the other indicators that we always watch, we've got the JPY. The 10-year is at 2.6, the highest that it's ever been in the entire past decade. Really, since about really the late 90s. We haven't seen anything this high on the chart. Last time we were at this yield for the 10-year was back in the mid 90s for Japan. Long time ago. So pretty substantial rise in their interest rates. Those are continuing to climb. People anticipating that they are going to have to raise interest rates. There is a large disparity between where they are holding their interest rates and where their interest rates are trading for the bonds. Many of the people at the BOJ and people that are retired from the Bank of Japan all coming out and saying that they expect that their interest rates will be at 2% or higher in the next 2 to 3 years. I think, we really should see like 1.5 at some point here in 2026. I think that they will be moving aggressively higher when they do decide to go ahead and shift here. They have one more intervention. If you want to go look at the yen versus the USD, you can see the last 5 interventions they've had here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, yeah, that one, I don't know that this one was an intervention about 24 hours ago or not. It wasn't anywhere near as significant as some of the other ones. But they only get so many more before the IMF is going to step in here and start regulating them much more strictly in order to be able to prevent a currency collapse from happening. And again, I do think that they're going to be forced to raise interest rates and invoke monetary policy potentially at some point here in May. Again, that would be unprecedented. They have never had an emergency meeting to be able to invoke monetary policy in Japan. However, they did state that they are going to come out and kind of do ad hoc meetings as necessary as the situation continues to unfold. So hanging out around 158, back up off the bottom where they pushed it back down to around 155. Again, the danger zone, is around 160, 161, 162. If we see the yen depreciate against the dollar substantially in a short period of time, that's when they're going to have to act again. So at some point, that is going to unfold. I think that they are waiting till we have guidance from the OCC around stablecoins. A lot of people very optimistic on the markup for the Clarity Act tomorrow. I'm not so optimistic. I've had multiple conversations while traveling at these conferences over the last 2-3 weeks. People that are in the know, the people that are writing the bill, don't seem overly optimistic that this is going to get through. You got the PACE Act, you got the SAVE Act, you got midterms. There's just a lot, right? So they're going to vote on the markup tomorrow to be able to put it to a vote in the Senate or the House. Not sure which one is going to pass through first. But I don't know. You know, if it has any chance of getting through at some point this year, they have to get this markup passed tomorrow. If it passes tomorrow, it's, you know, I'm at 5% that we get it this year. I'm pretty like 95% that it's not going to make it through. But there's a chance, right? I'm not as certain on this as I've been on other things in the past. I'm still wrong on those. So, you know, take it with a grain of salt. I'm just one guy. It's just conversations that this person says, bro, it already passed. It did not pass. It passed the Genius Act, not the Clarity Act, though. So that's on the docket for tomorrow for vote, for the markup. We'll see how it does. Irrespective of that, you know, I think XRP is well positioned. Looks like, you know, there's, again, a lot of people coming out saying that they have some type of bill that they're going to put forward. Yeah, I'm 95% sure that it will not pass. That doesn't mean it doesn't get past the markup tomorrow. Okay? Like, they could vote it and it could get past the markup. They still have to vote on it in both the Senate and the House, and then it would have to go to President Trump to sign it into law. With everything else that's going on this year in midterms, highly unlikely that we will see the Clarity Act passed at this point here in 2026. So I think, you know, 2027, yeah, I'm bullish on that. But here for the rest of 2026, 95% that we don't see it happen. So there's a lot of people that are enthusiastic about it, and I love that. We do need regulation for the space, but I think, you know, oversight from the OCC and you know, guidance from the CFTC and the SEC, I think that's enough to be able to get things across the line and get things moving for tokenization of the stock market and all the other stuff that you guys are wanting and waiting for. One other indicator that I'm still hanging out watching is oil. We saw oil climb and then come back down for crude and Brent here domestically in the U.S. Still hanging out about 16,000 yen per barrel. It's pretty substantial. It's like the highest cost of energy that they've ever had there in Japan for the past couple decades, at least on the full scale that I can see. So, not good. They are definitely experiencing inflation in their economy. They're going to have to be able to combat that either by selling off treasuries or doing something else to prop up the yen or increase its value against the dollar, or raise interest rates, which they do not want to do because it will unwind the reverse carry trade. And again, like I've said before, I'm pretty confident that they're waiting on the OCC to come out with their guidance around stablecoins. Could this be that scenario that I kind of thought was going to play out before, where they were backed into a corner and they push it without, you know, kind of because they have to, problem, reaction, solution? It's possible. You know, they've got the comments back. Like, the OCC could probably act quickly if they needed to be able to push that through and allow the banks to be able to issue stable coins. I don't think the banks are going to give up the yield. And I get why people are frustrated by that. You're not going to be holding stable coins for the majority of your wealth anyway. I think you're going to be dealing with tokenized deposits. The stablecoin yield is to drive demand for banks for them to want to hold U.S. treasuries so that we can stabilize the bond market when all these treasuries come flooding back to the U.S. We need that. We need to incentivize them to do that. Otherwise, we are in a bad spot, like I've said before. So, that's where things are. Still waiting on, you know, things to play out. You know, market's still trending sideways in crypto. We really haven't seen the expansion of breadth across digital assets. But I think as we see a rotation out of the large cap stocks, some of that liquidity will make its way into crypto. And again, you know, depending on who shows up with an ETF and when, we could see other stuff. We're also looking at vault infrastructure. There's a lot of things that are there were conversations there in Bermuda around insurance and banking and how this is going to be structured and what it's going to look like to be able to run DeFi out of institutional ecosystems. A lot of good information there, a lot of really good panels. Shout out to Salt and Scaramucci for having us there, and we'll see you guys at Jackson Hole this year in Wyoming in August as well. So, without further ado, we'll go ahead and jump into the questions. Again, appreciate you taking time out of your Monday, well, not Monday, Wednesday, your Wednesday night, coming to hang out with me and ask great questions. Always forget to say it, but if you wouldn't mind, please like, subscribe, share. It does help your algorithm and the channel. We are almost to 200,000 subscribers over there on YouTube. So if you're watching this, watching back later, or watching on a different channel and you're not subscribed, I would really appreciate it. That's one of the goals for us this year. So please, if you can, just click a subscribe. Even if you don't watch me on that platform very often, it would be very much appreciated. All right, Weird Kids TV. They say, Jake, thanks for all that you do. What's next for the reverse carry trade? Are we good on the OCC situation? And what happened to Evernorth? I saw a video with Paul Barron, podcast guy, said XRP was being suppressed, PA, in July. Lots of questions in that one. So we went over the reverse carry trade just before I answered this. So same thing on the OCC. They got the comments back. I do think they're going to be rolling that out shortly. Evernorth still, filing amendments to their S4. They've been back and forth at the SEC a couple times at this point. They did, send them some red lines and revisions. It's not like an ETF where it's just, you meet these standards and you're able to go. So there's some back and forth, and I do think that they're going to be able to roll out Evernorth here in the next 30 to 45 days. I do think that they'll be able to finalize that SPAC, and I think there may be some additional announcements alongside that, which is going to be pretty cool. And then, as far as XRP being suppressed, Ripple sells XRP onto the market. Like, I'm bullish. Like, I understand why they do it the way that they do it. It funds Ripple. I don't make any bones about that. There's a lot of other people that poo-poo on that or don't understand the dynamic there. But yeah, there's definitely price manipulation in the market. And this is a nascent market. It's less than $3 trillion in total market cap. It only takes a couple $1 billion to manipulate any one of these digital assets, Bitcoin included. So, and I know that sounds like a lot of money to one individual, but these institutions have billions and billions and billions of dollars to be able to participate in these ecosystems and deploy and do what they need to in order to be able to make money, because that's what they're, trying to do. So, if they wanted to buy through the dark pools and the OTC desk and not move the market, and they wanted to sell a portion of that back onto the market through the exchanges to continue to push price down and hold it low, that's a great way to continue to dollar cost average down and get low pricing across the market for an extended period of time if you're recycling some of that XRP that you're buying off the OTC desk in the dark pools. That's just my thesis on why it's being manipulated and how it's being held down. Somebody else, I'm sure, could look at capital flows and validate that. I think we need price appreciation before they're going to tokenize the stock market. So if that's going to happen in Q3, then we would need some price appreciation before then for back-end settlement, because otherwise there's not enough liquidity. And you mentioned July. I think that we're going to get tokenization of the stock market in Q3. At least that seems to be the intent for both NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, and the other exchanges as well. Texas Stock Exchange is also going to be launching in Q3. From my understanding, when we spoke with them in the not too distant past, that's not going to launch tokenized, but they do intend to tokenize the ETFs that they're going to be launching there. First, it's just going to be ETFs, and then maybe toward the very end of the year, early 27, they'll be rolling out like specific stocks on that stock exchange. So they're about 5 blocks from our office here in Dallas, which is pretty cool. But all that being said, again, I think we need a high, stable price for XRP to be able to facilitate the back-end settlement of the stock market before they tokenize the exchanges themselves. All right, Colin, Mr. Cooper, he says, hey Jake, is it that governments around the world have conspired for this scenario, war, reverse carry trade, XRP increase, effectively playing God? I don't think they're playing God. It's not like, They can decide who's born. Like, you can, at a high level, do some of that stuff. But, look, how do I explain this in a way? If you had visibility of all this data, and you could prevent World War III, you could prevent famines, you could prevent horrible things and a lot of collateral damage during certain events taking place, you would do whatever was in your effort or ability to do that, right? And I think, the people that are at the highest level have actuaries and quants and very, very intelligent people alongside AI and other systems at this point, in order to be able to play out these different sequences of events to see where they transpire and lead to. And if you could show that to other countries and say, hey, look, we don't like each other. That's cool. We need each other for, the global economy is galvanized at this